timber frame is finished. We can move on to siding, and we already have. All right, so the way I was taught how to shingle a roof was to run a full-length shingle at the bottom. The next row up, you do a 30-inch, 20-inch, 10-inch. And then you start over again. And you do a full-size one again. And then 20, or 30, 20, 10. And that way, you keep your seams not in line with each other. So if a water ever were to make it through, it'll always surface back out and work its way across the top of the roof. I've always done my roofs this way. I've never had a leak this way. And I've had to go in and repair roofs where people don't do it this method. Well, they'll do a half shingle and then a full shingle. Half shingle, full shingle. And if their nail pattern's off a little bit or whatever happens, water tends to get underneath them, and then they also start to curl. So I always do it this way, and I've never had a problem. In fact, the roof that we're on here, we did it this way. That'd be 2020, right? Yeah, when COVID happened, I got kicked off this roof. Anyway, so that's what we're gonna do here. Now this cutting board that I have set up here, I made this back in 2014, I think. It's very simple. All you need is a piece of plywood, a straight edge, and a gap for your shingles to go underneath, and gives you a nice cutting edge to work with. Now every time I use this, I have to refreshen my marks. So we'll make a 10-inch mark, and then a 20-inch mark is all you need. And then, 30's on the outside. But I do like to inspect the surface to make sure there's no damage to the shingle. Slip it under. And now you've got a 10-inch and a 30. So now we need some 20s. And it doesn't have to be spot on perfect. So you don't have to be too concerned about that. We do want a nice square cut. So this line here is parallel to this. So make sure that this gap is nice and even, and it gives me a nice square cut. And I got two 20s. And sometimes that happens where you're cutting through the thicker section of the shingle itself. These are architectural shingles, and this outer edge won't cut through. And so you slide it over and then use this back edge as like a breakover, and it just pops it free for you. So our reveal looks to be about 5.5 inches. Our cover is 67 inches. So that makes it a little over 12 rows. It'll be less than that because we're gonna have a ridge cap. We know that our combination is full 30, 20, 10. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 12 rows. So that's only 3 sets. Let's talk about flashing detail. So this little roof is intersecting, obviously, a wall. And the flashing between this roof and this wall is very important. And they call it step flashing because it'll step up as you go. Well, I guess let's just go ahead and install some stuff and talk through it. Whew. So I'll flush up the bottom of the shingle with the edge of the drip edge. And that off. The flashing goes on. This edge of the flashing goes to the edge of this black strip here. So this is a reinforcing strip for the nails. And so you run your flashing right to the edge of it, and then you would nail it off. Now, because we're going up a rake to a plumb head wall, I need to trim this flashing off. And that's gonna get trimmed off because, well, functionally, it doesn't really matter. It's purely an aesthetic thing, and it would drive me nuts. So we're gonna go ahead and trim that off. basically on top of every single shingle going up this wall, we need to have a piece of flashing. All right, so does that make sense? It's every shingle. Shingle, flashing, shingle, flashing, shingle, flashing. All the way up. You know, I don't know what it is about roofing nails, or roofing guns, I should say. There's something really satisfying about the sound of it. I don't know what it is. The rhythm of it, or what the deal. There's just something about that I really like. Believe it, ran out on the last nail. The last nail for this job, and I ran out of nails. Oh. Well, next time I grab this gun, it'll be fully loaded. So today's mission is going to be finishing that timber frame 100%. I want to get all the extra stain on to the exposed components that could be, damaged by weather. Get the doweling finished in the gussets right there, yeah, right there. And if there's any other flashing details I want to take a look at, I just want to make sure I do a good once over, see if there's anything else there, because once it's finished, I want the scaffolding down and start getting the scaffolding set up to do the next process, which will be siding the front of the building. And we might even, maybe get to do some trimming today. We'll see. We'll see. 'Cause when I finish something, I want to make sure everything's cleaned up, all the tools are put away, blah, 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 blah. Well, oh, and I got some fair bit of cleanup to do down there. Yeah, what a mess. Anywho, let's get started. So I'm building this trim piece to go from all the way down here, all the way up to that first rafter. And here are the obstacles we have to overcome. The concrete here, it's pitched this direction. It's got a whole bunch of broken concrete down here that I have to cope to. and then it ledges over right here. And about halfway up the sheathing, from about here to here, the sheathing was, well, it was proud coming this direction. So I had to grind that all down to give me a nice flush surface to work with this piece of trim to go into this one. And then the rafter tail itself. So all the scroll work around the rafter tail, we have the cope around it. And here's what I've come up with. There's the scroll work. And then way down there, you can see where I notched everything around the concrete. Oh. Before we install this, we better stain it. But the fit looks really good. Actually, I'll just show you right now. Look at that. Nice and tight. Spend a couple grand. Get yourself a metal brake, they said. And I say, nope. Angle iron, 2x4, couple sawhorses. And I have a very rudimentary metal brake. What do you think? Now, does that look better than just leaving it alone? Yeah, that definitely looks more finished. I do think I need to chip that concrete out a little bit more though. Maybe this doesn't need to be as pronounced. If I bring this back, that'll look cleaner.
The houses in Saranac Lake were built more than a century ago. There are these big, grand homes with porches specifically built for the tuberculosis patients that came up here around the turn of the 20th century. Some of those homes have been really well maintained, while others have not. I should just duck under? I duck under the scaffolding outside a home just a few blocks up from Lake Flower. Nice to meet you, Sean. Thanks. Sean Duane is wearing a thick blue hoodie covered in a thin layer of sawdust. We step inside what is essentially a construction zone. Wow. This house had been vacant for years when it went up for sale at a tax foreclosure auction back in 2019.
All the properties I was looking at that I had physically gone and seen were going way too high. And this one popped up and nobody bid on it. And I said, I can bid on that. How bad can it be?
Turns out it was pretty bad.
So the story on NPR aired, and I am so pleased. Emily did a beautiful job with it. She has a bunch of other aspects, what's going on in this area. And I'm grateful to be part of it, even though it's super small scale. And, well, I mean, maybe this will grow. You know, that's the goal of this whole YouTube thing. If you're interested in the radio broadcast, I will put a link in the description and you can go click on that and have a listen. And if you're new to the channel, I've been kind of giving out little tidbits here and there what my hope is. And so to wrangle all those thoughts together into one spiel, I would say truly my hope is to be able to buy up these properties, renovate them, to give them everything they need, everything, and be able to pour my artistry into it, to pour my skill sets into it, to bring other craftsmen into the project, to make sure everything is done absolutely correctly. Then be able to sell them at a reasonable price, so that someone who lives here and is planning on working here, my goal, my hope is to be able to do this full time and not worry about that payday. And so that's my goal with the YouTube side, is to grow it and get monetized and use all that money to pour into these houses, so that when a day comes to sell it, if someone can't afford $400,000, but they're working here, they plan on, raising their family here, if I can sort that all out, I'd be happy to sell them the house at what they can afford. That's the goal of this channel. That's my hope. That's my dream. And if you want to help me reach that goal, hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, the like button, all these things help. And, leave comments, good, bad, or indifferent. I want to hear from you. With that all said, thanks again. I appreciate you all, and I look forward to seeing this thing grow. Good morning. It's Thursday, and it is a beautiful day in the 80K. The leaves are pretty much at peak foliage, and the drive in this morning was it was really peaceful and wonderful. Yeah. So we're filming out right here because the view behind me, that is it's breathtaking. You gotta take a moment to really enjoy where you are sometimes. So today is the last day of the good weather. So today I want to get as much done outside as possible, and starting with the flashing detail. So along the base, it's going to help cover up the transition between the masonry foundation and the wood frame of the house. This house is pretty well elevated in the front, so you don't have to be too worried about the snow and all that. But I do know from experience that from shoveling the sidewalk all winter long, you do pile the snow up against the house. So getting a little more protection across the bottom of that wooden frame is a really good idea. And it helps, preserve the bottom row of the siding and all that. So, enough gabbing, let's get to work. So this trim detail right here is a bit tricky. So we have this bay window coming out at a 45-degree angle. So I back beveled both of these boards to have a 22.5. So you have your 45-degree angle on the face. Then I had to wrap around this rafter and wrap around the roof decking and get it all to come together. Now, as we know in this building, nothing is flat, nothing is plumb, nothing is level. So there's a fair bit of undulation in this wall. Now I just have these tacked together with a couple of finish nails. Well, if I were to go nail this thing off, it's a real good possibility that this seam would splay open. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pull this back out. I'm gonna stain that joint, so if it ever did come apart, it'd be protected. And I think we're gonna screw these together. So I'm gonna pre-drill it and then put the screws in and then get this thing back out here. Yeah, I think that's the best course of action. Well, here she is. It's all stained in the center, screwed together all the way down. I used a 2.5-inch screw to go through the meat of the majority of it. And I pre-drilled all the nails so that when I'm nailing this in, I'm not really putting a lot of force on this board. They're still really good and tight. Let's snake this thing in here. When installing this natural siding, you have to be concerned about the size of your reveal and the ability of this natural product to curl out at the bottom. The way you combat that, and to finish your install really, is to go ahead and nail off the edges, the bottom edge of your planks. I am very particular on the nail line. It has to be even. It just has to be. If I walk up to a house and I see an uneven nail line, it just shows me the level of professionalism of the person who did the work. And it's such a simple thing to do, especially on these short planks, because all you have to do is do something simple like take the hammer, the tool you're using, line it up with the edges, take your nail, set it, you don't want to just plow them in and then leave a big old hammer mark, or some people call them a union mark. That looks unprofessional as well. It's the little details. It is Friday, and the weather guys were wrong about today. So far anyway. It's actually really beautiful out, as you can see. See the tree behind me? Just lit right up like a, I don't know, sparkler in 4th of July. Anywho, so it did rain last night, which gave us some great evidence of how this new roof is acting and how it's shedding its water. Let me show you. So you can see the upper roof up there is going to drain down on top of the lower roof that we just built. Now all that water is going to come off of there and then come down this window. Now the majority of the water coming onto this window, I believe, is coming back from splashback as it drips off of that roof onto this roof and splashes onto the window. So what water does come down here, hit this concrete surface here, and then it will splash and go up onto this, the metal flashing detail that we put on. Now most of this is dried off this morning. Oh wait, and here, look at this. So here's the flashing detail that we have underneath the siding. Now this is why you have to put the air gap in under here. Because as this water, if this were to build up enough, could flow underneath and then start rotting out the siding. So you see how I built the gap in here and under there. Well, it took a few tries to get her in there. And that is all because, so you have a nice flat plane here, but the bottom of this ridge is up at an angle. I was saying in previous episode that this is hand hewed, and you can really see the detail of that there. So figuring that out in relationship to this was a bit of a trick, but as you can see, perseverance pays off. This week was amazing. The weather was awesome. The leaves have been beautiful. We're absolutely in the peak of it right now. And you know, next week it's gonna be quite a bit colder, but the snow isn't gonna be substantial. Probably some stuff at night, you know, it'll melt off in the morning. Well, oh, so today I spent a good chunk of the day at a customer's house, which is why you don't see any siding right here. And that's gonna be an interesting project if I get it. Yeah, I'll keep you abreast of that. But as for Frankie, we're just gonna keep on keeping on. I told the new customer that that if it all works out, because I have other customers I'm working with as well, we'll see. But Frankie's a priority, and we're gonna get through this thing. And oh, with that all said, a bunch of new subscribers this week. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. You know, we're getting closer and closer to making this thing the norm. That's the goal, right? To make turning these dilapidated, abandoned houses into livable, loving structures. A fella can have dreams, right? Anyway, thank you all for stopping by High Peaks Home. And if you're new to the channel, you know, go check out this video over here. you know, some of the other work that we do, or if you want to see where Frankie began, you go check out this one. All right, y'all. I'll see you later. Bye.